At 14, my parents made me sign a $600 rent contract or leave home. A week later, a lawyer's letter landed on their table, and their faces went pale. When I was 14 years old, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table and slid a piece of paper across to me. It was a typed contract stating that I would pay them $600 per month in rent to continue living in their house. They said I was old enough to start contributing to the household like everyone else. They said the real world doesn't give handouts to anyone. They said if I didn't sign the document, I could pack my bags and figure out where else to live. I was 14 years old. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money of my own. I had nowhere else to go. My parents knew all of this very well. They also knew I had a savings account that my grandmother had set up for me before she died last year. It had about $8,000 in it from birthday gifts and the small inheritance she left specifically for me. That's what they actually wanted. They wanted access to my money, and they thought this contract would make it all legal. I signed the paper because I didn't know what else to do at the time, but something didn't feel right about the whole situation. The next day at school, I talked to my guidance counselor about what had happened at home. I didn't frame it as asking for help specifically. I just asked if it was normal for parents to charge their kids rent at my age. Her face changed immediately when I told her how old I was and how much they were demanding from me. She asked if she could make a phone call on my behalf. 2 hours later, I was sitting in the principal's office with a woman from Child Protective Services. They asked me a lot of questions about my home life. I told them everything honestly, about the contract, about the threats to kick me out if I didn't sign, about how my parents had been talking about my grandmother's money ever since she passed away last year, about how they kept asking me to withdraw it and give it to them for various emergencies that never seemed real. The CPS worker made some calls that day. One of them was to a lawyer who worked with their office on cases involving minors and their assets. I didn't know what was happening at the time, but I found out later that this lawyer specialized in protecting children's finances from their own parents. 1 week after I signed that contract, a letter arrived at my house addressed to my parents. It was from the lawyer's office. I wasn't allowed to read the whole thing, but my parents left it on the counter and I saw enough of the contents. The letter explained that the contract they made me sign was not legally enforceable because I was a minor. It explained that attempting to coerce a child into signing away their inheritance could be considered financial abuse under state law. It explained that the money my grandmother left me was held in a protected trust that they had no legal right to access whatsoever. And it explained that CPS had opened an investigation into their treatment of me. My parents went pale when they read that letter, actually pale like they had seen a ghost. My mother sat down heavily in a chair, and my father started pacing the kitchen, muttering about how I had ruined everything for the family. They tried to backtrack immediately. They said the contract was just a lesson about responsibility and nothing more. They said they never actually expected me to pay anything at all. They said I had completely misunderstood their intentions and made them look like monsters to the authorities. I didn't say anything in response. I just watched them panic. The investigation lasted 3 months total. During that time, my parents were on their absolute best behavior toward me. They suddenly remembered that I was their child and not a tenant. They stopped mentioning my savings account entirely. They bought me things and told me they loved me in ways they hadn't bothered to do in years. When the investigation ended, CPS determined that while my parents had made poor choices, they hadn't crossed into territory that required removing me from the home. But there was a note in my file now, a permanent record of what they had tried to do. And the lawyer made sure my grandmother's trust was iron-clocked with additional protections. I turned 18 last month. The first thing I did was move out. The second thing I did was withdraw every penny from that account and put it somewhere safe. My grandmother wanted that money to help me build a future. My parents wanted it for themselves and tried to steal it from their own child. They still don't understand why I barely speak to them now.